Poi capo si dà, oh, papà si, ma di anni, sai, ya wa sim, visi, ọmọ là
Cool. my book on
We hold the belief that it takes a community to raise a champion. And this belief is entrenched in our practical, community-based approach to teaching. Our big why is to transform societies and inspire positive change on the African continent by building a community of exceptional leaders for the purpose, with the mission of equipping one for every 100. We value community, excellence, accountability, integrity, innovation, and sustainability. We pride ourselves in our mastery of technology to provide impactful digital-led hybrid courses to millennials and Gen Zs in the diaspora community, locally, as well as to the key decision makers in multinationals, national corporates, SMEs, and the trade sector. We are a tech-savvy, everyday accessible solutions provider. We are specialization-focused thought leaders, flashy, yet reliable, and the rock stars of today's and tomorrow's education sector. As one of Africa's leading hybrid education hubs, we offer forward-thinking, open enrollment courses, specialized executive programs, and short modular courses in our institution's 4 schools: the School of Governance and Politics, the School of Leadership Development, the School of Enterprise Development, and the School of Faith Ministries. Learning for global impact begins here with us. We are PLLI, the Pistis Life and Leadership Institute. Our promise is simple. You can change the world. Let's take you on that journey.
Today's business world has been disrupted by technology and innovation. The way to start and grow organizations has completely evolved. What used to work in the past in a lot of industries no longer works. Therefore, entrepreneurs who desire to birth and grow their ideas into lasting businesses are left with no choice than to prioritize learning and development. The PLLI School of Enterprise Development is set to pioneer an innovative community-based approach to learning that is guaranteed to provide students with a well-rounded and firm grasp of issues that affect startup and established businesses. With this approach, several facilitators leverage their hands-on experience to impact knowledge in each related module, using a combination of video presentations, panel discussions, slides, indigenous African-based case studies distilled from the hands-on experiences of these faculty members, as well as whiteboard animations. This makes each learning module very robust, engaging, and personalized. I therefore invite you to follow the link on your screen and register today for the School of Enterprise Development, proudly powered by PLLI, the Pistis Life and Leadership Institute.
We hold the belief that it takes a community to raise a champion. And this belief is entrenched in our practical, community-based approach to teaching. Our big why is to transform societies and inspire positive change on the African continent by building a community of exceptional leaders for the purpose, with the mission of equipping one for every 100. We value community, excellence, accountability, integrity, innovation, and sustainability. We pride ourselves in our mastery of technology to provide impactful digital-led hybrid courses to millennials and Gen Zs in the diaspora community, locally, as well as to the key decision makers in multinationals, national corporates, SMEs, and the trade sector. We are a tech-savvy, everyday accessible solutions provider. We are specialization-focused thought leaders, flashy, yet reliable, and the rock stars of today's and tomorrow's education sector. As one of Africa's leading hybrid education hubs, we offer forward-thinking, open enrollment courses, specialized executive programs, and short modular courses in our institution's 4 schools: the School of Governance and Politics, the School of Leadership Development, the School of Enterprise Development, and the School of Faith Ministries. Learning for global impact begins here with us. We are PLLI, the Pistis Life and Leadership Institute. Our promise is simple. You can change the world. Let's take you on that journey.
I'm muted. Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining the Pistis Life and Leadership Institute, first in our series of webinars that is going to run across the months of July and August 2022. All right, thank you so much for joining. And I'd like to especially thank everyone who connected earlier on before 4:30 p.m. Thank you for that timeliness. If you don't mind, please can you just go to the comment section and type where you are connecting from, just especially if you're in Lagos State. Today was a very rainy and flooded day. So if you are able to make it out of your bed to connect, I think you've done a great job. So please just type on the comment section where you are joining from. All right, while I briefly introduce the webinar for today. Today is the first in the series of 4 webinars that PLLI will be rolling out between the months of July and August. Today, we will be looking at rebooting your startup, how to raise a failing business, how to bounce back from a startup failed business. The whole idea is to offer tangible, relatable solutions to the business ecosystem, startup world, to the business community, from all and sundry who are dealing with these related issues. So we will be dealing with today's subject. We have a subject expert, someone who has results spanning close to 3 decades. So it's someone you have to listen to, it's someone you need to listen to, and it's someone you have a lot to learn from. We recognize that most of you are sending your questions, and we are trying to curate some of them. He will not definitely take all the questions, trust me. As at 10 minutes into this, opening this webinar, we've had over 102 questions sent in. He can't take all of them. So he's just going to take the much he can take for this evening, and maybe the rest can be sent in when we are sending in further communication. In 2 weeks' time, we will, July 24 precisely, we'll be taking another subject matter from employee to partner, nurturing and retaining great employees or great talents. And then 2 weeks again after that, on 7th of August, we'll be looking at debt freedom for business owners. It's not a news again that a lot of entrepreneurs in Nigeria, and it's not just in Nigeria, across the world are in debts. They've made investments that got caught up by the pandemic and the lockdown, And right now they are struggling to get out of debt. We have someone that will be coming to talk to us on how you can come out of debt, how you can be free from debt, or how you can take advantage of debt as a business owner. And the last in the series of 4 webinars that we are throwing out will be making profit in uncertainty, how to unlock innovation for business growth, especially in a time when nothing is sure. That topic cannot be more relevant than in our climate or in our environment in Nigeria, or in the face of recession, we are in the face of election. There are so many uncertainties. How do you make profit? It's not just enough to run business, but how do you make profit? I'd like to let us understand that this webinar is coming to you free because we have 2 organizations that have sponsored the whole event for today. They are Mike Ose Foundation. In the course of the webinar, we will have someone from each of these sponsors talk to us briefly about what they do and how that connects to you. We have Mike Ose Foundation, and we have Yes Microfinance. Their representative will also be making a very short introduction of their, their services or what they have to offer the business community. So today is really packed full. Incidentally, we seem to have lost a little bit of time, and some people are still caught up in traffic. So please stay tuned as we get into the business of the day. Without wasting much of our time, I'd like to tell you who is going to be talking to you today. Because for business people, it's not just enough for you to know how to talk. You have to earn the credibility to talk to them. Our faculty this evening is the founder and chief executive of B. Adedipe Associates Limited, BAA Consult, with over 4 decades of postgraduate work and professional experience, which cuts across university teaching, investment banking, project finance, management and financial consulting, as well as leadership in business and not-for-profit organizations. Dr. Biodu Adedipe has had an illustrious career that took him through the University of Lagos, Enterprise Consulting Group, the World Bank, African Region, International Merchant Bank PLC, and First City Monument Bank PLC. Biodu's technical expertise is wide-ranging, covering corporate strategy, research, and economic analysis, solving complex business problems, and assisting clients to execute business solutions in line with their corporate strategies. He is a highly sought-after business strategist, facilitating strategy design and execution for financial institutions, non-financial business organizations, and not-for-profit organizations. Also an astounding analyst and commentator on government fiscal operations and economic policies. He sits on the boards of a few profit-seeking and not-for-profit organizations, and he is actively involved in director development. Dr. Biodu has served in various capacities in government, including member of the Presidential Committee of Experts on the redenomination of Naira in November 2008, member of the Federal Government Committee of Experts on Expenditure Review, October 2010 to March 2011, and senior special advisor, assistant to the President, Financial Sector Development in the Office of the Chief Executive Advisor, 2011. Dr. Biodu received his doctorate degree in industrial economics, specializing in corporate finance from the University of Lagos in 1989, and BSc in economics, first class from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, in 1980. And he bagged several awards in the process, including Sir Adam Thompson Scholarship as visiting doctoral student to the University of Sussex, UK. He is a member of several respected professional bodies, including the Institute of Directors Nigeria, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, the Nigeria Economic Society, and American Economic Association. Dr. Biodu founded BAA Consult in February 1993, and he's been responsible for charting and managing the firm's strategy and activities since operation commenced in March 1994. Gentlemen and ladies, would you join me to welcome our faculty for this evening, Dr. Biodu Adedipe, as he takes on the session for today.
Thank you so very much, Eze, and a very good evening to you all, ladies and gentlemen. And I also want to say a very big thank you to Christie's Life and Leadership Institute for having me as the speaker this evening and talking about startups that are either struggling or even those that have failed. How do we reboot them? How do we bring them back to life? And incidentally also, like Eze said earlier on, that's Peter, that there are a lot of hands-on experiences that we bring to bear in our conversations today. But in order to make more time for an enriching conversation, I will spend just a few minutes on my slides. And then, of course, we all get copies of these subsequently. So if there are some slides I skip in my overview, you will get that when you get a copy as a registered participant at this webinar. So I will share the slides now and talk to the ones I consider important, because I also understand that we already have, before we even started, 102 questions. So the idea is to make as much time as possible to address the questions. So basically, the logic is to understand that your business can come alive again. That is the essence of this. So I will run through this outline. It may look long, but most of them are actually one slide, items. So the starting point for us is to remind ourselves about what a startup is. Now, a startup is a newly established business, which means it is in the first stages of its operations. But equally, and this is where the critical issues begin to be brought on the table, obviously for a purpose, which means every business is established for a purpose, whether the promoters properly defined it or not. But there's a purpose for every business. Now, many people, let me say promoters of businesses, they miss the point at this very beginning by simply defining the purpose of their business as to make money. And that is where they begin to get it wrong. Yes, we make money in business, but there's a way that money comes about. And that's a critical issue we'll be talking about here. Now, the purpose, when it is clearly defined, number one, and secondly, tenaciously committed to, is a harbinger of money. Harbinger means forerunner, which means money will come when you define clearly the purpose of your business and you demonstrate tenacious commitment to that purpose. So if you do those two, it's only a matter of time. Money will come, which means the first critical thing when you are setting up a business is to be clear about why you are in business. People give all manner of reasons when you interrogate entrepreneurship. And of course, some will say, oh, I want to be my own boss. I want a situation where nobody breathes down my neck or gives me, a target, sets expectations for me. Or some will say, look, this idea of waking up early every day, rushing to work and doing 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, depending on which country you are. And so for them, that's their purpose of going into business. But then one of the things I want to show very quickly is the essence of a business. If you get that right, you have started a journey of not only setting up a business, but getting it to a point where it becomes sustainable and then also resilient. So what then is the foundation for a startup? Now, right at the beginning of the business is where you sow the seed of sustainability and resilience. To be sustainable means you remain in operation for much longer than the chances people generally give to startups anywhere in the world. So this is beyond Nigeria at this point. Of course, at some point we talk about peculiarities of our business environment, but these are facts that happen to businesses all over the world. So what are those things you must ensure you get right from the beginning in order to build a sustainable business? Then when we talk about resilience, which has become even more important now in the light of the disruptions to business all around the world, especially extenuated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which of course today has become endemic. So question that is very, very important is, what do you want to offer to the market? In which case, you must have what you define as offering. What are you offering the market? How will your company and what you are taking to that market be different than what already exists in that market? So you must be able to define that very clearly. This is what I'm taking to the market. As also relevant, I will share some of my personal experiences with you. But two important attributes of what you are offering. Number one, it must be concrete. That means anybody you explain this to should get a clear picture of what you are bringing to the market. Secondly, it must be something that is needed, which means what you are offering the market answers to a need. It's not just a fancy, oh, I want to also, claim to be an entrepreneur. I want to also beat my chest that I own a business. It must be something the market needs. So next to that question is, why do you want to offer it? Basically, it must be because you have done your research and established that there is space for that product or service, as the case may be, in the market. So if there's space for it, then that brings us to the purpose of business. Why should you go into business? Remember, I said earlier on, many people get it wrong by saying, oh, I'm going into business to make money. But as you see on this slide, I define profit as the outcome of doing business right. It is not the purpose of business. It is an outcome, which means profit is the interplay of income generated set against the expenses incurred in generating the income. And so we then say that profit, as commonly said at the bottom line, is the outcome of doing business right. So question, what is the right way to do business? That's the beginning of it all. So following Peter Drucker and Brad Tracy, and I love this so very much, and I've taught this over the decades, over 30 years I've been teaching this, that if you go into business, there are three basic things you must give attention to. The first one is what you need to do to create customers. That is, what do I do to win customers to patronize me for the first time? Then the second line to that is, what do I need to do in order to keep those customers? So in which case, it is one plank of the struggle to win a customer, it is yet another plank to keep them. Now there's a principle, let me put that forward there. You won't see that in any of my slides, okay? It talks about the lifetime value of a customer. What it talks to is a combination of these to create and keep. It says, if you offer something that a customer delights in after buying it from you, and you are now looking forward to that delight, making the customer to make a repeat purchase. So if a customer makes repeat purchases from you over a 10-year period of time, so how much volume of business can that one single customer give to you over a 10-year period? That volume of business is what we refer to as the lifetime value of that customer. In which case, you are looking at every customer that comes to you as a customer you want to keep for not less than 10 years. Now, as we speak today, I've had some customers that have been with BA Consult ever since we started in March 1994. And of course, one of them will be First Bank of Nigeria. First Bank became a customer of BA Consult in March 1994. And they still remain a customer, just to illustrate. And there are many others like that, okay? The third plank is you want to do it in a cost-effective manner. That means, how do I win customers? How do I keep them? And ensure I cover the cost of doing both, which is why I put it simply here. Win customers, keep the customers, but make sure you cover the cost of doing both with something left to show for the efforts. That something left is what we call profit. In which case, profit is the outcome of doing these three things. Win customers, keep them, and cover the cost of doing both. But one important fact is this: the more customers you have, the merrier, which means whatever the nature of business you do, the number of customers is critical. You must continually make efforts to win customers and ensure you keep them, because the larger the number, the better for your business. Now, this is important to put forward at this point. Question: why do startups fail? Now, research has proven, that is surveys of startups that failed, that 21.5% of startups failed in the first year. So if your startup exceeded 1 year in age, you have escaped the 21.5% that failed in the first year. Then 30% failed in the second year, which means first year is critical. Second year is also important. 50% fail in the fifth year, 70% in their 10th year, which means startups, only 30% of them remain in existence after the 10th year. So if you run a business, therefore, that has been in operation for longer than 10 years, I will say, congratulations. But for the business owners interviewed, that is those who ran failed businesses, the reasons they gave, all right, were money ran out. That means the money with which to continue running the company ran out. And there are many reasons for that. That is why we also say that poor financial management is very critical to a startup. Number two important factor that came out from the survey is that they were in the wrong market. That is like a leader who takes people on a mission to cut trees. They enter the forest, and then his people started cutting trees, and they say, hey, wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Then he looked for the tallest tree in that forest. He climbed the tree, surveyed the forest, and I told them, ladies and gentlemen, stop cutting. We are in the wrong forest. Let's go look for another one, okay? So you must be very clear that what you are offering is a solution that matches the problems in the market you are targeting. Some fail because of a lack of research. That means they made assumptions, they made presumptions, and simply thought, oh, if this my friend who does a similar business succeeds, I can also succeed in that same market. So without doing any proper research, they jumped into the market, and of course, their business failed. There are also cases of failed startups arising out of bad partnerships. Now, there's a whole lot in that regard. Now, because I'm a finance person, and of course, in corporate finance, mergers and acquisitions also is a big issue. And so when you talk about partnerships, business combination, we also call it, there's a whole lot in terms of deciding and then choosing whom to partner with. Some also die because of ineffective marketing. Maybe one of the questions that you probably will ask will make you also share with you what I call the 5 stages of effective marketing. There are 5 stages to that, but many also failed because they were ineffective in marketing. And then also, there are some industries where expertise is required. And so some went into that industry, but they lacked the expertise required. So not being an expert in the industry also resulted in their failure. So let me put it this way, that the first 3 to 5 years are critical. The beginning is when you start. I put that as 0 to 6 months. And that came from my personal experience. I resigned from FCMB July 1996. I was an AGM in the bank, what we call then assistant vice president. So when I resigned, the chairman and founder of the bank called me and said, is it another bank you are going to? I said, no, sir. If it's another bank, look, I advise you stay here because they're only tempting you with money, but I'm willing to pay you more. I said, no, sir, it's not another bank. Then I said, oh, you are too gentle, you know, they will cheat you. And inside me, I said, does it mean this old man has been cheating me? You know, just in the right mode. But then the old man helped me, and that connects to something I said earlier on. What exactly are you going to do? Oh, I've been running this, my consultancy, you know, part-time. Of course, I had an unusual grace, let me put it that way. Because while I was a staff of FCMB, FCMB was also patronizing my business. That's unusual and very uncommon, all right? So now, at that instance, I told the old man, I'm going into consulting. He said, you are too good to be a consultant, you should remain a banker. And then as toward the end of it, this happened over a period of 1 week. I resigned on Monday, 22nd of July, 96. By Friday of that week, every day we come into his office. He then asked me, say, look, I want to be sure that you are going to do a business that you will not suffer because I don't want to release you to that market because I enjoy what you are contributing here. So I now told him, say, sir, what I'm going to do is everything I've been doing for FCMB as my employer, I will now offer it to any bank that will be willing to pay me for it as a consultant. The old man now said, oh, if that is the case, then you will get business to do, which is making reference to the contributions I had made to the bank in my 4.5 years there. So when he now accepted my resignation, so formally, I tendered the letter and took my terminal leave and exited FCMB end of September 96. 6 months later, I met my line director. That's where this idea came from. David Drum, that's his name. He's a Briton. And then he asked me, he said, Biodu, are you still in business? I said, yes. He said, if you remain in business, these last 6 months since you left us, that means you have chances of your business surviving. I said, how do you mean? He said, typically, when people resign to start business, 6 months after, they usually dust their CV and they start looking for another job. He said, but if you can weather the storms, every startup will face storms, all right? Know that for sure from the beginning, okay? You will face storms. And that is where you need what we call the staying power, all right? To remain there when the company is not making money yet. Because at the beginning, that company will not make the kind of money that can probably even pay the salary your last employer was paying you. That was my personal experience. My company could not afford to pay me the same salary and allowances that FCMB was paying me. But I had to hang in there, believing strongly that I was on a journey of growth. Then the next phase, 6 to 24 months, is when you make every effort possible to survive. Survival is the next thing. So the start is 0 to 6 months. 6 to 24 months is to survive. And that runs around the principle of ensuring whatever the cost a customer gives you, you want to make sure you deliver. Let me drop this line, that any company, irrespective of size, can compete successfully based on quality, all right? You can compete successfully with the big ones in your industry if your focus is very tight on quality, all right? That is what we pursue the next 24 months. Once you scale 24 months, the next thing is to stabilize. Stability comes for a startup between 24 and 36 months, because by then you would have started getting repeat purchases from customers. By then also people have gotten to know you are in that business. And so when you serve them very well, not only will they come back to buy from you, they are ready and willing to make referrals, which means they tell other people about you. Once you cross 36 months, then you are ready to grow. That is why I said the first 3 to 5 years are critical for a startup. But let me stop sharing here so that we can begin to take questions, because Peter told me that we have so many questions. And I said for that reason, I will devote more of the time to dealing with questions than merely making presentation of my slides. So you will get a lot more in my slides, but again, a good number of the issues in there might come out in my response to the questions. So ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we can begin to take questions because there are so many, I understand. So thank you very much, Peter. How do we take that session? Are you going to read the questions and then I respond to them? Or we take them in batches of 5, I write them down, then respond so that we can manage the time more effectively. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Biodu. I almost wish I could say you should continue to share these thoughts as they are flowing. But so what I would do is I will take the questions maybe in batches. I will just take batches of 3, so that I can give you some bit of time, because I think the fundamental foundation you are laying are very, very critical. All right. So I'm just going to take the question like batches of 3 and then allow you to continue again. Again, gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for joining this. Again, like I mentioned, this program has been made very possible for your free attendance because of the partnership we've enjoyed with Mike Ose Foundation and the Yes Microfinance Bank. Well, we'll get to that. All right. One of the questions here says, with the benefit of hindsight, I've realized that lack of structure was the major reason why my startup went down. coming back again, how do I structure my business for better sustenance? That's one question. The second question says, can you give us practical steps out of debt? How do I get back on my feet, you know, as an entrepreneur who failed because of heavy burden of debt? That's the second question. The third question is, I'm just trying to look for what is related. How do I guard against failure in sustaining momentum in business operations? Since that was the problem I had in my previous attempt. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Very fantastic questions. So let me address them in the order they were raised. The first one, lack of structure. Now, when it comes to structure, there are 4 things we normally talk about. I call them the 4 P's. Each of them starts with the letter P. The first are policies. Now, policies have no respect for size, in which case the policies that you set at the very beginning are very, very important, and they must be documented. Those policies must not be either in your head or in the head of somebody in your organization. They must be documented, all right? So the question will be, what are the relevant policies for the type of business that you run? Okay, the type of business will determine the policies you need. And that is what we have been privileged to deal with over time across different sectors and industries within the economy. That is number one. The second thing that we talk about are the procedures. How do we do things in our organization? Let me try and forge a link between those two. Policies, for example, you have HR policies, okay? You have accounting and financial policies. You have investment policies, okay? You also have policy relating to, you know, let's say even, let's say customer relationship management. So different policies depending on how far you want to go. So which means in your organization, any member of the team knows what your company stands for in that regard. Let me give you a simple illustration. Now in BA Consult, we told ourselves that as a policy, that if we go to your organization to prospect for business, and anyone as much as we ask us, that if you give us a transaction, what are we going to give the person in exchange for giving us a transaction? We call that play under the table. So as a policy BA Consult, we don't do that. So we thank you warmly and appreciate what you have said, giving us a chance to even pitch. But we then tell you, thank you, you can give it to another company, then we walk away. Which means as an existing policy, none of our staff will come back to the company and say, I went somewhere, I secured a transaction with a promise that we give the person in charge this percentage of the what we pay us, our fee, for our professional fee for that transaction. No staff of ours will come back with that because there's a written policy and it is well communicated that we don't do that. That's just to illustrate many other things. So policy is number one. Secondly, procedures talks about how we do things in our company. All right. Now, because I run a professional service organization, and my wife and I, we met in banking some 33 years ago before we got married, 32 years ago. So I left banking first to face the business of BA Consult. She joined me 6 years later. So we worked together as professionals in the same firm. Now, we made as a policy in BA Consult that we were not going to hire any of our relatives. And we maintained that policy over time. All right? So in which case, whether you are related to me or to my wife, you will not get a job in BA Consult as a policy. Now, that connects to our recruitment policy and procedure. So procedure now, how can you become a member of our team? That means I won't just pick you up somewhere and say, give this person a letter of appointment. No, you go through a process where you are interviewed. Depending on your level, you might write a test, and then Eventually, you are found appointable. We make you an offer. In that offer letter, there's also specified the period within which you must accept the offer. If that period lapses, if you take it that you are not interested in joining our team. So when you join the team, you go through onboarding. And of course, after onboarding, we also let you understand the way we work in BA Consult. Everyone with a primary responsibility, but everyone is involved in everything we do. The idea is that I want to build you as a professional who is well-rounded. That's a policy BA Consult. So the procedure of joining the team is well laid out. So and everybody knows that you can't just bring a friend of yours, a relative, and expect to be employed there. There's a procedure. If I want to go on vacation, there's a procedure. Okay? So everything, again, like I said, is documented. That's the second P. The third P, that talks about our business processes. We have 4 business platforms. There are 4 things we do. Okay? Let me just use one of them to illustrate. We do training, what we call at times talent development. So now, for that aspect of our business, we have what we call a document that we refer to as a checklist, which means for every training transaction, there's a checklist that whoever is in charge of that will follow to ensure we don't miss out on anything. So how do we prepare the manual? Now, as a policy BA Consult, when we invite facilitators to join our team to deliver a training program, we don't expect them to prepare the slides. We prepare the entire manual internally in BA Consult. Not many training consultants do that. But that is our business model, to ensure, number one, quality of what we give out, then 2, to ensure consistency running through the entire content. That's why we chose that approach. So now, based on the policy now, flowing into that, we then say the process is that you will have a checklist that we check. I've done this, yes, this is the next thing to do. So that at the end of the day, you don't get to the training venue and now tell whoever is with you in the team that there's something you forgot in the office. That should never happen. So there's a process to everything we do. If we are doing strategy consulting, let's say it is about a retreat, we develop a work plan. If it is to do a strategy plan for you, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, there's a work plan that we go through. If it is for you to acquire another business, there's a work plan for that. If it is to find investors for your business, there's a work plan. So every type of transaction we do, there's a process we go through. That's the third P. Now, the fourth one is the one that brings every of your staff to connect with what your company stands for and you are doing. We call it the daily practices. That's the fourth one, the daily practices. What should every staff of your company be doing every day? The whole idea simply is that there must be a connection between every job in your company and the strategy of the company. So if you're able to walk through those 4 Ps, that will bring structure. So structure is beyond the architecture of the organization. Architecture is organogram. We call it governance structure. That's the organogram. So structure is far beyond organogram. Organogram just talks about reporting relationships. Then also you have in there the job descriptions, which means every staff has a job description. If I'm a staff of your company, my job description will follow a format. What is my job function? What is the objective of my job function? Which business unit do I belong to? Then, of course, whom do I report to? And following that is, who are those that report to me? And having settled that, we then go to my major responsibilities as a member of your team in your company. Then we come to my KPIs, which means if I'm actually doing my duty, performing my job in the company, how are we going to know and determine that? We call them the KPIs, key performance indicators. They're also on that job description, just 1 page. Then there's a final section there that now says the skills / competency requirements for that particular job function. So if you look at my responsibilities and look at the skills required, if I as an individual, I don't have all the competencies required to deliver those responsibilities, that now points out the training gap that you as an employer must fill. So somebody must fill that gap. So you have to train the person to fill the gap. Now, if it's a startup, Okay, that means you are just going to hire people. You don't have an organization that is running. Then we have another section in the job description that we talk about qualifications, educational, professional. And then we now talk about maybe years of experience. That we talk about what are the things we require of the person that will occupy this position. So when you do all these, you have put structure into your organization. Secondly, the question depth, all right? Incidentally, that was what I specialized on in writing my doctoral thesis 33 years ago. Now, that is when I finished, by the way. I started that in 1982. That was when I finished the coursework for my doctorate. So it took me from 82 to 88 to finish the research I'm summarizing for you. There is nothing wrong with a company borrowing, all right? There's nothing wrong in that. But what is important is that when a company borrows, you must understand that borrowed funds would definitely be paid back. So it has a maturity date. That means in deploying the borrowed funds, it must be for things that will bring growth for the organization. And there's also this aspect, because I've also been a banker, so I've seen this inside out, okay? Now, there is something in bank we call your borrowing capacity. In corporate finance, you know the theory, we call it debt capacity. Every company has a borrowing capacity. So the reason a startup will run into a problem of debt overhang is because it borrowed more than the capacity it has to repay the loan. And then I must also point this out, that there is a big difference between the purpose of a loan, because we tell your bankers, the loan I need from you is to do the following. That's the purpose of the loan. But that is very, very different from the cause of the need to borrow. Why do you need to borrow? Is it because we're unable to access funds from some other sources? And we talk about that also as we go on, talking about raising funds for a startup, okay? So if that is the reason you have to borrow, they'll need to go back and interrogate that again. So, but now you have a debt overhang. How do you get out of that? The first line in getting out of a debt overhang is to have a document, a plan. There must be a document on how you will do that. Let me give an illustration here. Don't bother that the figure I'll be talking about can be big on occasions and it can be small. But here was a man whose companies put together were owing the bankers over about 12 billion naira. This was some 17 years ago. And so the question is, how will this man's group of companies get out of 12 billion naira debt overhang 17 years ago? And I said, you know what we do? Now, give me a breakdown of all these businesses that you have in the group. The man had a cargo airline, he had investment in power, he had investment in oil and gas, investment in banking, investment in insurance, in telecoms, all of them variously. So I said, okay, let's take all those companies one by one. And now, let's look at a period of the next 5 years. How much can each of these companies generate? We call those inflows projected. Of course, your inflows will be based on assumptions. Then what are the outflows? That means how much are they likely to spend? What is the net inflow from each of these companies? So we aggregated them over a 5-year period. Having done that, I now went with him to his bankers and we sat down to discuss and to negotiate. The moment you have such a plan, or now you are going to generate cash going into the future, your bankers will listen to you. And that is when also you can seriously begin to talk about forgiveness, because the loan you have today with you has two components. There's the capital component, how much you really borrowed, and then there's the accumulated interest, which is the portion now you can appeal to the bankers to give you some discount. We call it waiver in banking, all right? But no banker will seriously sit down and discuss with you without a clear plan on, okay, if they waive this interest, this is what will remain. If the other one remains to the amount you actually borrow, this is the total we'll be looking at. So how long do you want to pay this? So I will pay over the next 3 years. We call it terming out in banking. So they term it out for you. So you spread it over 3 years, and we pay in the following tranches over the next 3 years. Okay? Now, because you have a written plan, it can be discussed and negotiated. And then you can get the bankers to now say, okay, you know what? If we need to give you fresh support, we are willing to. Some bankers do that. Okay? What they tell you to do is pay some amount that you have right now that will bring a reclassification of the debt from non-performing to performing. And so it can now be restructured in the language of banking. So the bank can restructure it and term it out. And then you can begin to run the business again towards exiting that loan. Alternatively, you can now go the way of equity. Maybe it will be a time to look for partners or whoever can, make funds available to you. And that is why integrity is key in whatever business you are doing. Now, if you prove truly that you are a disciplined manager of money, you are likely to find people somewhere after, asking around, showing them your plans and how you intend to go and run the business, that they may be willing to commit some money to your hand to restart the business. So in which case, getting out of debt is a function of having a documented plan of how you want to go about the business from now into the future. And you now sell the idea to your banker, the one you are owing. It is also possible to identify a source of borrowing that is cheaper than the one you are owing now. And they may be willing to now buy out your current loans from your current, creditors. So let me go to the third one, sustaining momentum. You will find some things in my slides, okay? Like I said at the beginning, that in answering some of the questions, I will talk about some aspect I haven't talked about now. If you want to sustain momentum, there are 4 things that you look out for. I call them the 4-way test for a small business that wants to grow over the course of time. Number 1 is that every day you wake up, you must be asking somebody for business. In which case, there's nothing like my hands are full. Right now we have a lot on hand. Therefore, let's stop asking for new businesses. No, you must continue on a daily basis asking for new business. That is the first test. So if you want to sustain momentum, that is something you must do deliberately, which means at the end of every day, you bring out your scorecard. How many people have I asked for new business today? Okay. For example, I was in church this morning and an idea occurred to me as to what I will do to some of my clients, the kind of messages I will send out. So by God's grace, after this session, I will send those messages out to some of those clients. Now, that is number 1, asking for new business. Number 2, a test that your company is still alive and kicking is that there must be some transactions you have on hand at the present moment. So what are you doing currently? Let me give an illustration. We had one of our clients, a Ghanaian client, okay, send a message today. There's something I want you to do for me. This one relates to selling the business. The woman wants to sell the business. He said, either you find a buyer that will take me out of the business or a buyer that is willing to support me. Then she sent the message and said, look, one of the big banks in Ghana is willing to give us support and they want to see what we are putting together for us. I said, okay, fine. Now she said, can we have it this week? So I then immediately sent a message to our managing consultant, all right, and told her, what are the chances that we can deliver what this woman needs by the end of this week? She then wrote back and said, we have about 7 transactions that we are concluding this week, that we are the final phase, all right? Which means if we conclude them, then we do the 3rd phase. I've told you 2 things now. First is to ask for business. The second is that there are transactions on hand. She told me there are 7 transactions we have on hand that we are concluding this week. That will be very tough. And I replied, I said, you know what? If our team is able to conclude those 7 transactions this week, and we are able to deliver what this our Ghanaian client is asking for, I am ready to approve bonus for staff. So she replied and said, wow, that's interesting. I will tell the team. Of course, it's a principle in economics that says people respond to incentives. You must know that as a business owner, all right? People respond to incentives. And that means once people know there's something in it for them, they will deny themselves sleep or whatever it takes to deliver what you expect, all right? So That the second thing is to ensure that there's something on hand that you are doing. The third phase, sustaining momentum, is that there are transactions you are finishing and you are therefore invoicing. That means invoices are going out. Depending on the nature of your business, this could be something happening on a daily basis, it could be happening on a weekly basis or monthly basis. Okay, so for us in BA Consult, we look at this as a weekly thing. So every week, an invoice must be going out to a client, either for a job we have already completed, or it could be for a new transaction where we also bring in mobilization. Then the fourth and final stage, talking about sustaining momentum, is collection of payment. I've seen many startups fail, not because they didn't get business to do, they got transactions, but they failed in completing what we call the cash conversion cycle. The cash conversion cycle is that every business and every transaction starts with cash. You buy materials and inputs, you process them, you deliver finished product to your client or customer. The customer receives it from you, and the customer either pays you immediately, we call that cash, or it takes it on credit and will pay later. So two things will happen here, one of two things. First is if the customer pays immediately, you get cash, and then we say that you have completed the cash conversion cycle. But if the customer receives it on credit and says, I will pay later, what you have done in accounting is you have created a receivable. So now linking that to the first question on structure, if you don't have a structure for collecting receivables, that can also kill your business. Now let me come to this. It's a real life case, all right? We all know AIT Dark Communications. That organization nearly died in the late 90s. And what was the reason? Debt overhang, okay? And so I was in my office. Then the AGM Finance came to my office, a former banker and a friend of mine, and said, be a consult. I want you to come and train our staff in AIT in debt recovery. And that created some questions in my mind. Debt recovery for a television station. How come? We don't only talk about that in banking. And I said, yes, it was the 40 business model that AIT started with that got them into trouble. I said, explain to me. He said, okay, when they started, their pattern was that they wanted to lure customers away from NTA so that they can receive a lot of adverts. So what did they do? He said, what they did now was to tell marketing communication companies, bring the adverts of your clients. We will air the adverts, but you can pay later. So those agencies rushed adverts to them instead of going to NTA. So it appeared that business improved significantly, but AIT was only creating receivables for which they had no structure to collect. And so at the end of the day, people were not paying for those adverts because they said, yes, we saw that you play by our adverts on your TV station, but we don't see any impact on our sales, so why should we pay you? We do not have happened if they paid upfront, okay? I said, now I understand. And I told him the story of Sheraton Hotel Ikeja. I went to train some bankers, just a few months before then. And in the class, it's held also in Sheraton Ikeja. One of the participants now, during tea break, we exchanged complimentary cards. And I saw there, debt recovery officer. So I became curious. So I asked him, you work for Sheraton, and your job function says debt recovery officer. How come? He now said, yes, his job is very simple, that most foreign airlines, they lodge their crew in Sheraton whenever they stop over in Nigeria, maybe overnight or whatever. So that what his own job is to keep record of their expenses for the month. When the month ends, the account department will generate an invoice for the airline, and that is for multiple airlines anyway. So his job was to collect those invoices from accounts and make sure it dispatches to those airlines. And whenever I take the invoices there, then they will collect the check in payment for the previous invoice. I say, fine. That means you give the airline 60 days credit. Because you issue an invoice, let's say beginning of June, that will be the invoice for May. When you now take the invoice for June at the beginning of July, that is when you get paid for May. Quick means expenses incurred in the month of May will be paid for 2 months later. I said exactly. So I now told this AIT guy, my friend, this story. And I said, even though I will make money if I come to train your staff, all right, but that will not solve the problem of AIT. What AIT should do is introduce a credit policy. You see that? I said it earlier. So if you are going to sell in your startup on credit, you must have a credit policy, which means you don't sell on credit to everybody. Who are those that will qualify to buy from you on credit? Of course, I learned my lesson there also as an advisory service provider. In the early days of BA Consult, I would just say, anybody that came, pay mobilization, I will get the balance when I finish my job. But I discovered that some clients, once they got the final report, of course, it is in writing. And like I always say, ideas are perishable. Perishable because once people read it, that's when they tell you, you mean this is what you are charging 5 million for? You mean this idea is what you are charging 10 million for? The idea doesn't mean anything to them any longer, but they already have it anyway. So they've read it, it's in their minds. They can even throw the paper at you, but they've harvested the idea, all right? So we then designed it this way that, look, depending on how we perceive you in terms of risk, we will either ask you to pay 70% mobilization, so that by the time you refuse to pay the 30%, we won't feel any sense of loss. Or we structure it in such a way that we say pay 30 or 40, 40, 20. So we've already paid us 40 times 2. What remains is 20%. So if you don't even pay that, we won't feel any sense of loss. That is what I learned in the early days of being a consult as a startup. And then we corrected that as we continued in the journey. So nowadays, depending on the risk perception, we can ask you to pay 40, 50, or 60% upfront. And then we get the job to a certain stage. Whenever we give you a draft, we ask for additional fee from you. So by the time we are now left to deliver the final, like for those 7 clients this week we are targeting, we're only looking at maybe 30 or 20% of our fee remaining, which if you now don't pay, we won't have any massive sense of loss. So that is how to sustain momentum. Thank you very much. So let's move on. So Peter.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Beldo. You're literally opening our eyes to a lot of errors and mistakes of the past. And the beautiful thing about this is you've been there. You're not quoting case studies from Harvard, with all due respect. You are not quoting case studies from American companies. You are quoting case studies that we can relate with, we can touch. We've been to this organization. We know exactly, where they are currently. So that makes the session very relatable. I must tell you, sir, we have tons of questions, and the questions are now getting more practical as we are progressing. People are now asking real questions. Okay, I'm going to take another batch, but before I proceed to those questions, I would like to call up the head of business loan, Yes Microfinance Bank, Miss Cynthia Aguele. She will be just briefly sharing with us about Yes Microfinance Bank in a few minutes, and then we come back again so that we can allow Dr. Biodu to, take a sip of water, and we'll come back again. Cynthia, are you ready? Please, can the IT navigate and bring Cynthia up? All right, thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cynthia Aguele I'm the head of business units, Yes Microfinance Bank, business development. So I just hear, like Dr. Biodu has rightly said, he has even said more than what I want to say. So at Yes Microfinance Bank, we're a financial institution where we give out loans to SMEs that have been in business for a while. I understand that the purpose of this webinar is rebooting startup. So at Yes Microfinance Bank, our aim is to expand and support businesses that have already been in existence for about 12 months. Dr. Biodu rightly said that it's to collect a loan, you don't need to do that for a startup. So it's best when you've stabilized your business and then you can now borrow money. So at Yes Microfinance Bank, our objective is to support businesses and help you to grow. Our features are we give out loans from 200,000 below, from 200,000 to 2 million and above. We have competitive interest rates of 4%, and we give out loan to based on your capacity. So we just don't give out loan. You just come and say you want loan, and then we give it to you. We look at your business, we'll see how far you've gone, we check your bank statement, check your turnover, and then we grant you the loan based on the capacity. And that's because we don't want a situation whereby the loan is choking, the repayment for the loan is choked up for you. That's why we make it a stretch of 6 months maximum. Subsequent transactions with us, you will now extend it to 9 or 12 months. Our service is swift and very easy. Applications are online through our website, www.yesmicrofinancebank.com, or you can apply through our USSD *258*1#. Our loan requirements are simple. We just all require your national ID, your bank identification number, your shop or your utility bill, your shop or your house utility bill, your passport photograph, and a guarantor. Just one guarantor is all we ask for, and then checks, because we need to collect money for the repayments. So the process is simple and fast forward. All you just need to do is give us your bank statement, and then we'll assess and do verification on your business, and then give you an offer letter. You don't even, the beauty of our business is you don't even need to come to us. We will come to you. We would assess your business. We will bring the documents to you to sign. We'll collect your documents as well, and then we'll disburse to you. Repayment is usually through remitter or checks. We have a sister company too that is also called CPay, where we do, it's an agency banking platform. So as a side hustle to your business, you can also include this to the POS business to what you do. Our POS business are fast and are easy to use. You can also use it for payment for deposit withdrawals and transfers. It can also be used to buy your recharge card, to pay for utility bills, and pay for your cable bills. The application process is also pretty simple. All you need to do is to go to www.cpay.ng, apply, and send your document online through the website. Through our agents will reach out to you, and then you can apply and send us your documents. You send us your valid ID card, your utility bill, your shop office utility bill, and you must have a functional Android phone, because, like I said, you can do transfers through our POS. And then you can also monitor your transactions through the CPay app. So if you have a functional Android phone, you have your utility bill, you have your bank statement, you have your passport photograph, you're eligible to apply for the POS. And that beautiful thing about our agency banking, you can also do account opening, whereby you are people who we're in partnership with 15 banks. 15 commercial banks, and you can get them you can help people, the banks in your locality, in your environment, get them to apply for account opening. We're in partnership with GTB, Zenith, Fidelity. You as the agent will help them open the account, and you get a token fee of 150. So the more accounts you open, you're gaining 150 for every account opening that you do for us. As well as another part of our POS agency banking, you can also do BVN registration. There are so many people that are yet to get their BVN. With our POS, you can do BVN registration and also make side money from this hustle. So like Dr. Jordan has rightly said, borrowing money is not a crime, but you borrow for the right purpose, and you borrow to expand your business, to support. So we at CS Microfinance, we're here to ensure that we support you financially and make your business grow to the next level. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Peter. Thank you for the time.
All right, thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you for that fantastic introduction. You've heard it. We have Yes Microfinance Bank here, and they've pretty much made it easy for you to obtain financing for your business. Very simple, very seamless. And I think for those of you who would be interested in getting facility, you should stay very close and ensure that you are very close to PLLI as we have this conversation going on. It's a 4-series webinar. This is the first in the 4th series. Thank you very much, Yes Microfinance Bank, for coming on board this program.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're back to our facilitator, Dr. Biodo. So people are beginning, like I said, they want to now go very practical now. And I'm going to be asking this question. There are so many of them. If you don't mind, I'm going to be taking 5-5. Maybe the next one I'll do 6-6. So this next set of questions, one says, how do I balance using business finance for home use, especially if there is no other source of income? This is a practical question from a startup. So please, for those of you who have long-running business, indulge this question, okay? But this is a real question. The second question says, is it possible and ethical to change a partnership business to a sole proprietorship when one partner wants to pull out, or is it advisable to start from the scratch again? That's the second question. The third one is, how is a business model drawn up? Or what exactly is a business model? Can you just, in a simple layman language, tell us what a business model is and how to draw it up? Then the fourth question, am I right? Yeah, the fourth question says, what's the best way to market your company in the 21st century? Now, a follow-on question to that, another person said, if I want to build this failed business back again, but building it for sale, what should I focus to make it sellable? What should I pay attention so that I make it sellable this time around? Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you. So, because I also am conscious of time now, I will try to make the answer succinct and straight to the point. Now, the first one, to balance the use of finance between business and home, especially when there's no other source. Now, that is a major cause of failure of many startups. In fact, you notice in one of the slides that I shared on the screen that I made reference to poor financial management. One very fundamental thing when you set up a business is that there's a difference between you and your business. And that is what the accountants call the entity concept. That means your business is an entity separate and different from you. And it is very easy for me to use myself as an example. My name is Biodun Adedipe. Okay, the name of our consulting firm is B. Adedipe Associates Limited, which means I gave my name to the company. So in which case you look at it, it will be like, oh, him and his business, they bear the same name. But in reality, my business is my employer. So I am staff number 1 in BA Consult. And so what I've done over the years, 28 years plus now of being in operation, is to treat myself as an employee of that company. That again talks to structure that I mentioned earlier on. So I am on salary in BA Consult. What that also means is that I don't take out one single kobo outside of my entitlement. So any money that I take out is what I'm entitled to. If I now will need money from the company because I'm short of cash, which is what the situation represents, then it will be in the company's documents that I borrowed money from the company. Which means if I borrow from it, whenever my salary is due, the company will take it back. Or on occasion, it could be when the company makes profit and we decide to pay dividend, the company will take it back from my dividend. Or it can be taken back from my bonus, whatever, okay? So all of those recognize that there's a difference between me and the company. And this became a reality for me, I think in year 2000, because that was the first time we audited our accounts. So we had to audit our accounts for 96, especially when I went into full-time business, up until year 2000. And our auditors told me that, look, I was in your records that you were giving your money to the company, like buying fare to run generator in the office and all that. I said, no, that's not acceptable. So it wasn't even the other way around of me taking money from the company, but using my money to run the business. And he said, it is not done that way. That if I give any money to the company to buy fuel or pay any expense, I must have it refunded that I gave a loan to the company. So I took a cue from there 22 years ago. And so that's the way BA and IRS relate with each other at arm's length. You want to ensure you do that also for your business. Second question, you started as a partnership. One of the partners says, I'm willing to leave and exit. So the question is, can I now re-register the company as a sole proprietorship? Yes. You can rest the partnership and then register it as a sole proprietorship. The only thing that will happen is that the exact name you had before, you might not be able to use it with CAC. I'm saying that because I sit on the board of an entity that we help to set up in the microfinance sectors among the top 20 players, and that platform also includes the CBN and NDIC. So I sit on the board of that entity. Now, we had to register it at first as limited liability so that we can scale the hurdle of getting it to operate and attract foreign support for training microfinance bank staffs, okay? But we got to a point and said, in order for us to access funds from Europe, especially from angel investors and other social investors, that they will not put money into a company that is limited liability, that is profit seeking. So we have to re-register it as an NGO. But in order to do that, we fit into the kind of question you ask now. We have to adopt another name. It wasn't the old name. So that will likely be what will happen in this situation. The third question, business model. Now let me explain that. Your strategy is about how you will compete. Strategy simply put, because that's the way Peter said it, all right? He says the difference between business model and strategy. Now, strategy simply is a choice of how to compete. That's what strategy is, a choice of how to compete. The business model is how you will make money out of those your strategic choices. How will you make money out of the strategic choices? That is what business model talks about. Which means strategy is about what I want to do, why I want to do it, when, where, for whom, all right, by whom. I call them the 6 faithful friends. I call those faithful friends of mine. Questions. What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And then how do you want to do it? Then where? Then when is number 5. Then number 6, whom? Whom now has 2 heads. For whom? That's the customer. And by whom? Your own staff, including yourself. So now in answering those 6 questions, you would have addressed strategy. But business model now says, these things we have chosen to do, how will it bring money on the table? So I already explained earlier in the answer to a question, what we do in BA Consult. One of those things that brings money in is you give us a certain job, I will say, to do this for you, pay mobilization of this percentage of the agreed fee. That brings in money. And then we ensure we do it so well that when we finish, because of the value we are delivering for you, you are so happy to pay us the balance of our fee. So it means 2 things will happen. The nature of the business, number 1, and then secondly, the quality of what we deliver. Then the next question talks about marketing. You remember I said earlier on, I will give you a key. In fact, there are actually 4, not 5 that I said that there are 4. The 4 keys to effective marketing. Now, effective marketing is getting people to patronize you. And what are the 4 keys? Key number 1, this again came from my personal experience in business in so many years, but the particular nature of my business is to help businesses solve their problems. So what I'm sharing with you is not just my personal experience, it's the experience of companies that we have been opportuned by God to do business for in terms of advice services. Number 1 is what I call brand recognition and identity. Your brand must be known in the market. But people get it wrong, thinking that branding is about spending money on advertisements and the rest of it. What it means is that people must get to know the fact that you are in business. And that means your networks. Who are those people you went to school with? Who are those who live in the same neighborhood? Who are those you meet in the church, in the mosque, wherever you go to worship? Okay? Who are the people you meet regularly? You worked in some organization before you set up your own business. The customers of those organizations that you knew in the course of working for them, they are all part of your networks. So you need to get out information to them that you're in business. Okay? So that is the starting point. I call it brand awareness, brand recognition. Number 2 is what I call your offering. I mentioned offering earlier, which means what problem are you out to solve for people? People don't buy products and services, they buy solutions to their problems. So the purpose of your business will be to solve problems for customers. So what problems are you solving for them? So the problem you are solving will define this offering, the solution you are selling. So let them see that the solution you have is the solution to their problem. Okay? They are now aware of your product. You now want to persuade them. That's the third level. To persuade them to buy your product. So in which case, you want them to see that your product is solution to their problem. So when they see that, and this is coming also from experience, because I experienced this before, where I will persuade someone that what our company is offering them is a solution to their problem, and they will go and buy elsewhere. So the fourth stage is to convince them to buy from you. Create brand awareness. Secondly, create product awareness. Then convince them that what you are offering is solution to their problems. The fourth stage is to convince them to buy from you. Okay? So those are the four stages to marketing effectiveness. So every day you wake up, it's about how do I get someone convinced that what I am offering is solution to their problem and that they will be willing to pay me for it. And so they now choose also to buy from me. When I started, I was in an industry where I was facing the big five in consulting globally. They were all very present in Nigeria. So I was consulting strategy in banking. That was how I started business. It then meant that I needed to outcompete and outmaneuver the likes of Accenture, KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, okay, and of course, Ernst & Young. I needed to outcompete and outmaneuver them. That was a tough one. So talking of research, I now sat down with my people. We researched these companies and how they were also attending to their customers, problems. And we're able to fish out 5 reasons that we can put before any prospect why they should choose BA Consult. That was how we started, all right? But glory to God today, every of those brands recognizing that BA Consult is in existence in the market. So they not only recognize that we're in existence, a few of them have offered us partnership to work together in transactions. Some have even come deliberately. I won't mention the name among them, okay? Among those top 5. One of them came December 2021, that they wanted to learn from us how we do marketing for this kind of business that we both do. I mean, it was very humbling for me, but it also meant that there was something we were doing right for them to come that they want to learn from us, okay? The next question, the final one in this bag, is building the business for sale, which in fact is what we are looking at for the client I mentioned in Ghana that sent me a message after church service today, okay? You want to build your business for sale. The first question is this: why will anybody buy your business? So it must mean that they see value, what you call the brand equity, is such that if we take this to the market, people will be willing to buy it. Without mentioning names, many years ago, one young man who also left banking for consulting like me, where I call him young, not because he's really young, but I'm older than him, okay? He approached me and said, Dr. Edipe, can we combine our businesses that BA Consult should merge with my own? So, and I said, there must be something he saw in us that made him want to become our partner. One of my former line directors in FCMB made a similar offer to me that we should combine our businesses, okay? So how do you prepare your company, build it for sale? Number one, nobody will buy a business that is not successful. Nobody will buy a business that is not bringing value on the table. And let me give you an illustration, real life illustration, but I won't mention the names. When Soludo was central bank governor, he came with an 18-month, reform agenda for banking. And so at the end of the day, many of the banks could not make it. And so a number of them came to be a consult. And one of them said, what we want you to do with us is to build our bank and structure it so that it will become attractive for those that will buy us. So we looked at the different challenges facing the bank and we went out with them and addressed those challenges. So the bank got to a point where they were able to recover 3 billion naira. And we said, to make this sale work through, that 3 billion should not come to the bank. We went to central bank and said, open an escrow account in the name of this bank. So that 3 billion went to that bank. As soon as that 3 billion hit the account in CBN, that was cash. Immediately, I received 2 letters from the 2 different banks. They were willing to buy that bank from BA Consult. So in which case, what are those things that will make your company attractive to a buyer? You have customers that are willing to remain with you anywhere the company goes to. You have also some cash. People love to see cash on hand. What investment do you have? All right, in the money market, in the capital market, in the real estate, whatever. Which means if you have managed the company financially in a sound manner, you should have made some surpluses that you also invested. So whoever wants to buy your company will be looking at that also as a sweetener. We call those sweeteners investment that you have, customers that you have, and the fact that the business is ongoing. If the business is maybe temporarily shut down, those are the sweeteners we put forward. Do you have any assets? I know of some banks that bought over some others simply because of the assets that they had. So those are the things that will make it attractive. So let's take another batch of questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Biodu. Thank you. You are really delving into this matter and dealing with it. I would like to crave the indulgence of everyone who is connected here to please we pay rapt attention to everything Dr. Biodu is sharing here. These things are very deep. They are very resourceful. They are coming from years of exposure, field experience, hands-on experience. There was a comment Dr. Biodu dropped on the chat, and I know some of you didn't see it. He said, if you want, he said, provide answers to these questions and the Yes Microfinance Bank will listen to you. Provide answers to these questions and Yes Microfinance Bank will listen to you. Number one, the purpose of the loan you are seeking for. Number two, the amount you require. Number three, the duration or how long you want to pay off this loan. And the last but not the least, the payment source, repayment source. Where will the money you will use to repay come from? 4 questions: purpose of the loan, amount you require, purpose, duration of repayment, and then the source of the repayment. He said if you have these 4 answers, Yes Microfinance will listen to you. In fact, they will come to you. All right. Okay. And I'd like to also seize this opportunity to let everyone who is here know and understand that Dr. Biodu will be taking a full course in the main course. We run a 10-week business course. The first layer of the course is called the Spark School of Enterprise Development. Is going to be launching first week in September. It's a 10-weekend course, 10 Saturdays, 10 days, but very, very intensive. We are going to be looking at a number of issues, and Dr. Biodu will be teaching. He's going to be taking a number of topics. So we'll be looking at topics like identifying business opportunities, starting a business, the rudimental things about starting a business, especially in our client, the legal framework of business in Nigeria and Africa at large, strategy and planning for a new business, stabilizing your business, finding and retaining the right people, customer identification and management, overview of costing, understanding money and its role in your business, and of course, product and business development. And we will have a team of founders, business owners, entrepreneurs, about 10 of them, accomplished experts in their field, who will be facilitating this session from Dr. Biodu Adedipe, who has addressed you today, to another gentleman who you'll be meeting in class if you register for the course, Dr. Femi Johnson. He's a founder, he's an entrepreneur, and he's a policy maker. We have Dr. Ngozi Onyea. She's the founder of Pilon Memorial Hospital, one of the best specialist hospitals on the island, and she's a mentor. We have Mrs. Toyin Sani, who will be facilitating there, an investment banker and a founder of an organization. We have Mrs. BC Adeyemi, a founder of another organization, a thought leader, and an author. And we have Mr. Tayo Odunsi. He's a founder, he's a real estate developer player in the real estate space, and he's a policy maker in that space as well. We have Mrs. Folusho Badamosi. She's a tech executive, and she's also going to be a faculty in the Spark School of Enterprise Development. We have Mr. Debo Motunde. He's a teacher and he's a consultant. And we have the founder of the Peace Life and Leadership Institute in person of most people here know him. He's Pastor Godman Akinlabi. He's the founder of this institute, and he's going to be teaching. If you think it doesn't take anything to build a church in Nigeria to the level he has built it, then you make a big mistake. He's going to teach how he has been able to build a system and how to build institutions. And of course, he's going to be sharing stuff on vision and leadership at that program. Then we have Mrs. Juliet Inyan, who is an HR expert who will come to teach business owners how to set up a strong, formidable HR infrastructure. We have Mr. Babajide Muniz. He's a digital technology expert who will tell you how to incorporate digitization into your business, because you're doing any business that is not tech-enabled or tech-driven, you are on your own. We have Mr. Henry Bassi, who is a brand expert who will teach you how to position your organization from a branding point of view. And Mr. Nduka Mba, who is a global accomplished customer service expert, who will teach you some of the things Dr. Biodo has been talking about, your customer service, but there's a science to it. Mr. Nduka is going to teach you about that. The beautiful thing about the Spark School of Enterprise Development is that we are deploying what we call the community learning approach. It means that more than one faculty will teach each subject. So if you don't get it from the way this other person thought it, you will get it from the way the other person thought it. Some of us know that we dropped out of sciences in secondary school because our physics teacher was just too technical for us. But we've navigated that curve to make it easier for everybody to get the subject. All right, you'll be hearing a lot more about it as we proceed in our webinar. All right, the next set of questions. Sir, I will take about 6 or 7 questions now because the questions are just a lot. All right, yes. So the first one says, excuse me. Sorry. How can I, thank you, sir. How can I get efficient people to work in my business? You know, you talked about your team. How can I get efficient people to work in your business? And that question is very important, sir, because we are in the era of millennials and Gen Zs. Sometimes they don't seem to have loyalty to anything other than their convenience and their comforts, right? They resign on per minute billing, all right, if I may put it that way. So that's the one. The second one is, can you provide some guide on how to secure the right partners for your business? You've talked about partnership and all of that. Can you just some bit of tips? The third one is, on the back of that second question is, do you have are there some tips on board selection? All right, okay. Selecting board for your company. The next question is, what opportunities are available for investment in startups in Nigeria? Most investors, most venture capitalists want businesses that are already doing well. So are there really opportunities for investment in startups, especially in Nigeria? Our next question is, how can one navigate through financial crisis in a business? I think you have touched on this already, so you might just keep. Let's keep this. So the other question there is, how do you choose a potential winning portfolio? How do you choose a potential winning portfolio? I don't think I understand the question, but I believe you do. The last in this batch says, how can I build several sources of income yet remain focused? How can I build several sources of income and still remain focused? Or how can I become more efficient and self-driven in my trying to manage several sources of income? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so very much. Fantastic question. So now the first one is about people. How do I get the right people? Now, let me say this. There's this common saying that people are your most important assets, which has now been redefined as the right people are your best assets? So in which case, the challenge is, how do I find the right people? So where it starts from is you define who the person is. That is, that person in your company. For example, in BA Consult, we say the BA person, which means you take the name of your company and say, the so person has the following profile, all right? So there are certain things, therefore, you look out for when you are hiring. And what we say there is that you don't hire nowadays based on credentials. Credentials are important. But what we say is the first thing you look out for is attitude. Now, this is coming out of the experiences over decades of companies all around the world, not just in Nigeria. So if you are hiring now, we say the first line to consider is the attitude. And then before you bring in credential, for credential, you can get so many people that will meet your minimum requirements when it comes to education, professional qualification, years of experience in the industry, level, whether management, whatever it is. All those, you will get so many. But you now look out for the right attitude. Of course, it means you must also approach the process professionally. For example, in BA Consult, when we want to recruit, but we also offer that as a service, okay? We have a bouquet of 60-something questions in different categories that we pass an applicant through to establish who this person is, all right? So there are also on occasion, depending on the nature of the job function, that this person will go to psychometric tests, all right? So all of this help you to also get a good idea of the person you are dealing with. But generally, coming to the remark you also make, which is important, dealing with the millennials and Gen Zs and the likes, two important things they look out for them to remain with you. One is that the job you're offering them is meaningful. That job must be meaningful. And then the second one is that it must be challenging. They look for jobs that are meaningful. They look for jobs that are challenging. And the third one, which is happening now as we speak globally, is flexibility. In fact, recently we conducted a recruitment interview in our company. And one of the questions that one of the applicants asked is, will it be a job where I must report in the office every day of the week? So, and of course, we told this person that primarily, when you are employed by a company, they expect you to work in the office. But of course, we know in reality that a number of us in BA Consult also work remotely. There was even a time all of us worked remotely, okay? So you must define the type of person you need in your organization. That is where it starts from. And then you send for them. People also think that recruitment is something that you can just do in a matter of a few hours or days. No, you must invest time in that process. That's why there's a common dictum in management. We say, you spend time on recruitment like the Dickens. If you research that, you discover that Dickens, quote unquote, Dickens, that they spend a lot of time in the process of finding who should join their team. Second question is finding the right partner. The central thing in finding the right partner for a business is look for someone that shares the same vision with you. Remember earlier, I talked about policies, procedures, processes, practices. All of those things make up your primary structure. Your organogram is just by the way, anyway. But the critical thing here is that whoever you are going to partner with will be someone that shares the same vision with you. That means if your vision is to build an entity that will outlast you, you want that person to be someone who also believes in that, not someone that down the road you start making money. And then he says, oh boy, we need to pay out. What's the point? What are you keeping money for in the company? If you make profits of so much, after tax, let's pay out everything as dividend. Now at that point, there's a drift, okay? There's a division. The word division actually is a combination of two words, die, D-I, and then vision. So division is division. That means vision has split into two. So you need someone that shares the same vision with you. And that means it has to be proven. I won't mention the name, but there's someone who happened to be a founder of a bank in Nigeria. That bank today is very successful. When a friend of mine was to start the bank as well, he said he went to him and asked him, what will I do to make a success of the bank that I want to start? He said, he told him, say, look, very importantly, right before you begin operation, have a policy of how you and other investors will deal with that bank. If you agree that for the first 5 years, you are not going to pay dividend, every profit the bank makes will retain it in order to grow the franchise. He said, then you have it documented and all of you sign it, but that because once a business starts to make money, that is when trouble usually comes in partnerships. So I will tell you, basically, it must be someone that shared the same vision with you. Board selection. Now, when it comes to directors, yes, the issue of vision is important, number one. But equally, in selecting people for your board, you are looking at a number of attributes. Number one is you want your board to be a mix of those who understand the business, those who have the networks that can bring business for the organization. Again, those who have influence that can bring some measure of respect from the regulators of your sector. You also want those who are particular about compliance. Those are the ones that will keep you in check. You want directors in those 4 categories. Those that will bring business, those that will also, those that are experts in the business. Number 3, those who have respect of regulators. And then number 4, those who are particular about compliance and will therefore bring controls. Once your directors are a mix of those 4, then you have a board that is balanced. I also do transactions in board evaluation, which means directors of companies, we evaluate them, all right? Just the same way students are examined in the schools, okay? We evaluate directors. So when we evaluate them, these are the things we look out for primarily. So what is the position of each director in there? And that is why also you have what we call independent directors. I'm an independent director on about 3 companies, actually. Incidentally, one of them, Peter mentioned earlier that she's also facilitating this program. I serve as an independent director in her organization, all right? That means I don't have any shareholding there, but my job is to ensure that they comply with the laws of the type of business that they are doing. So you need that also. The 4th one in this batch talks about opportunities for investment in startups, that's venture capital. Now, let me put it this way. Every venture capitalist is bringing money into your company and he wants to be sure that your company is on a growth path, which means if I bring in, let's say, 1 million naira today, because of the efficient and effective way you are running your business, the value of that 1 million will become 5 million, let's say in 5 years' time. So which means the money I put in will be far less than the money I will take out when I want to take my money out. So venture capitalist is someone who gives you money to trade with, and then over the course of time, when he or she wants to exit, because there's always an exit strategy, they now say, when we want to now sell back our shares to the company, the value we get will be greater than what we put in. That's what they look out for. So if you therefore are looking at it that way, it means you are running a business that by all means, all the metrics show clearly that you are going to grow the business. All right. So that is what becomes opportunities for investment in startups. So if you are, for example, I can look at it from 2 sides now. You are the one that is trying to invite venture capitalists. That's what you do, okay? If you happen to be a venture capitalist and you are saying you are looking for investment, it then means you'll be looking for companies that are well run, companies that have their proper documentation, that are in compliance with the laws of the land, the statutes and the regulations. If it is a peculiar industry that is tightly regulated, are they in compliance with all regulations? Not a company that violates regulations and gets sanctioned on an ongoing basis. Equally, you look at the management team. Is it a balanced management team? Just the kind of thing we do when we want to evaluate a company that wants to borrow money from a bank. The same thing venture capitalists will do. But this time around, the focus is on growth. So that company will grow. So when I want to exit, I will get more value for what I give them today. Choosing a potential winning portfolio. Now, That, of course, I will address from the perspective of portfolio management. Okay. The idea of portfolio management is that there are some basic principles that you are looking at in portfolio management. Number one is that your investment in that particular, entity is safe. So safety is the first rule in portfolio management. Then the second rule is liquidity, which means will you be able to get out of it when you choose to? The third one is the return on investment. So three basic considerations when it comes to portfolio management. So in deciding what you want to choose to bring in the portfolio, what you call winning in your question, it's about, will this particular venture I want to put money in satisfy the three questions of one, stability, in which case it is not a company that will fail in the short term, all right? You are sure that this company will survive for the period you are looking at having your investment there. Secondly, liquidity. If you choose to exit in 2 years' time rather than 5 years' time, will you be able to get your money out? Third one is the return on investment. So those three are fundamentals in choosing a potential winning portfolio. Of course, that means you are adding to it and also exiting some others. That is what we call an active portfolio management, but I won't go too much into that. The last and final question there is what I captured as multiple sources of income. If you want to build a sustainable and resilient entity, you must also keep in mind that you need to have multiple sources of income. If I use BA Consult to illustrate, we have 4 business platforms. That means you generate income from 4 basic activities. Of course, there are many activities, but they are grouped into 4 in BA Consult. Group 1 relates to strategy. Group 2 relates to talent development. Group 3 relates to economic analysis and research. And of course, Group 4 relates to human resource, that is human capital consulting. All right? And there are so many types of transactions under each of them. The idea then is that multiple sources of income will not make any sense if those sources are related, which means the fact that income is not rolling in, let's say using BA to illustrate now, from strategy work, doesn't prevent income rolling in from training or from HR consulting or from economic analysis, all right? So they must be unrelated. Just like we talk about you asking for a loan from Yes Microfinance Bank. Now, when they want to interrogate your source of repayment, what they will first of all tell you is that they want to see minimum of 2 sources of income, that is source of repayment, that are all related ab initio. If you are a single source of income, you won't be attractive to any bank. And that is why this question you raised is very important. So every entrepreneur must be looking at going beyond a single product entity. So you must be selling more than one. But you can now upscale it and now say you want to actually diversify. We get at the second part of your question, which means you are not only in one business, you also want to diversify into another business, whether related or unrelated. But as you said at the beginning, which also relates to one of the questions you asked, you must go into a business you understand. In fact, it's a principle in banking. When you are, if you are a banker and I want to train you in lending, there's what we call the 18 common sense principles of lending. All right? We call it commonsensical lending for a banker. One of them says, I must never give money to a business owner or manager who doesn't understand the business is running. So in which case, you don't go into a business that you don't understand. If the business looks attractive, then you have to invest time and possibly money to learn about that type of business before you go into it. Otherwise, you'll be starting something that will not last. So you need to understand the business you are doing. So if you don't know it well enough, then go and learn from those who have been on that path. Or if you have to actually get more, then register with PLLI, where you can learn about different types of businesses and how to manage them successfully. It's not just about managing them successfully. That is what I will say in response to that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Sobiado. Thank you. All right, I think we've overshot our time. Want to take a poll? For those of you who are asking questions about the slides, you want to get this recording, access to the recording, please there's a poll on the screen. Quickly fill in your name, email address, and phone number. Quickly. We want to ensure that everyone who connected gets these materials. They are so rich. You know, Dr. Biodo didn't even touch his slides as much, but some of things, interestingly, some of the questions that are being asked also touches on his slides. So before I'll give Dr. Biodo just 2 minutes to do a closing charge, but please, everybody, fill in these details so that we can get this thing to you early next week. You need to have this, and you need to begin to feed on it. I want to quickly tell us what we have coming next. Like I said, every 2 weeks from now, we will be presenting a webinar series, one of our webinar series, all right? So please make sure you take that poll. In 2 weeks' time, precisely July 24th, same time, 4:30 p.m., we are going to be hosting another free webinar series from employee to partner, nurturing and retaining great employees, a subject of interest to most business owners, especially now that staff attrition is quite high, and it's very important that you keep your key people. The big mistake that startups make is when money is not coming, the first set of people to take off are the ones who are taking the most salaries. Meanwhile, they are the ones that drive the business. So it kind of makes a common sense, but not all common sense are relevant for driving a business. All right. So we will be discussing that in details. So please mark your register. There is a link on the screen. You can type it. You can just copy it. It will be mailed to you, which is why you need to drop your details. We just mail this link directly to you, so that you just click and register. And if you are interested, if your organization is interested in sponsoring subsequent the next webinar, it's just a token with just a low budget sponsorship of 250,000. You will be partnering with us for the next one. You please do us the favor of following PLLI on Instagram at Pistis Life and Leadership. At Pistis Life and Leadership, that's our Instagram handle. Please follow us on Instagram. And for sponsorship and partnership, please contact the number on the screen or send an email to the email address displayed on the screen. All right, so we'll give Dr. Biodo 3 minutes to wrap up. But before then, if anybody has, we can take one live question. If you have a live question, please just raise up your hand and the admin will unmute you and allow you to ask your question. Is there anybody like that? So that we can just take one. Yes, if you need the slide, please fill the poll. Please, can the poll come up again? Somebody says that they've not filled. I have Issa Adamu's hand up. Please, can the poll come up just once? Somebody didn't fill it. Please, it's easy for us to capture the email, not on chat, but on the poll. IT, please, just one more. Can the poll come up one more? All right. Issa Adamu, can you unmute and ask your question? And after Issa's question, then Dr. Biodo will answer his question and just wrap up in 2 minutes. We've overshot the time. Sorry about that.
Oh.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you so much for your time and experience. I really enjoyed this program. And may God continue to be with you, guide you. I just want to ask a question. What is your take about partnership as a startup? Because I noticed that severally as a young man, we have these ideas, and we especially here in Nigeria or part of the world, we tend to carry the whole idea on our head. We don't intend to partner with others, or we find it difficult to sharing our idea because we believe it's all ours. What's your take about that?
Excellent question. Thank you so very much. Yes, although I spoke earlier about partnership, but the question you asked now brought something up for me to address. And that is, you rightly got it, that in our part of the world, partnerships are not common. And as I said earlier, number one is that you will work effectively with someone as a partner that share the same vision with you. But to strengthen that journey, as I said, in actual fact, the friend of mine that shared his experience with me asked this question from Foladola, one of the co-founders of GTB. Okay, he was the one that gave my friend the advice that ab initio, have your policies documented, especially how the investors will relate with one another. The investors, of course, are like partners in this instance, okay? So that you are very clear as to what you want to do with the bank. Not that when the bank begins now to make money, there is now fight over how to deal with the money the bank is making. Now, I will give two examples. One example is in real estate in Nigeria. That partnership thrived for over 20 years. And we all thought, oh, thank God, this is a good example of a successful partnership. Then suddenly, the whole thing unraveled and the partnership dissolved, okay? A similar thing we are seeing in, which industry should I call it now? They are into, furniture and home, decoration. Again, a partnership that lasted for well over 20 years and suddenly broke up. There is yet another one I know that is one of the leading commercial law practice in Nigeria. Okay, one of the leading practices in commercial law with many awards internationally, clients all over the world. They are a partnership, and as I speak to you, they are still strong and still remains a partnership. So the only thing I can say that separate between them, that is those that collapsed and the one that is still thriving, even though the three of them I mentioned had been in partnership for over 20 years. The one that is thriving today, it is because the owners, they share the same vision. And all of them are committed to it, like we say of a team. A team is a group of people that have equal commitment to a common goal. That's the way we define a team. So the same thing applies to a partnership. You have a common goal, but all of you are equally committed to that common goal. Once commitment is not equal, the partnership will dissolve. And that's the critical thing here, all right? So that will be my response to your question. So for that to work effectively for a startup, you must invest time in assuring yourself that the people you are dealing with share your vision. So my closing at this point, like Peter said earlier, is to share one of my slides. You see it in my slides deck. Not so many, but this slide talks about bounce back. How do you bounce back from startup failure? There are 4 things I recommend. There's what we call the power of focus. The power of focus I normally illustrate with light. Light, when it is diffuse, like you can see my face now, it is because there is light where I'm seated, all right? We therefore use light to see because it is diffused. It is spread widely. But the same light, when it is concentrated, it becomes laser. And laser is as strong as to be able to cut through steel. Which means there is so much power in focus. That was what helped me when I left paid employment. And my employer there, Otuba Shumbalogun, asked me the question, what are you going to do? In consult, I said, everything I have done for FCMB as my employer the last 4.5 years is what I will do for any bank willing to pay me for it. And the old man said, if that is what you are going to do, I'm sure you will get business to do. So when I started, therefore, I focused on banks. I didn't do business with anything non-bank. So when the business matured and it now began to grow, we grew out of banking. We still consult in banking today, all right? But we now have many clients that are outside of banking, in law practice, in the capital market, in the industry, manufacturing, maritime, you know, and so on and so forth. So many, even governments. The government selectively. Number two, innovation. Now, why innovation is important for your startup is that whatever you do for a customer today, that customer is used to it, and also marks you out for that as a standard. So for you to get that customer come back to you tomorrow, you must do something better than what you did for that customer yesterday. So that means innovation must be a way of life if you want to bounce back and remain sustainable and resilient. Number three is strength. Strength relates to what we call staying power. That means the challenges will come to any business, okay? They will come, but you must be willing to dig in the soles of your feet and remain there, that no matter what comes, I am going to succeed in this. With God on my side helping me, I will muster the strength to continue in this journey. I may go hungry on a particular day. If I may have to work all night and have no opportunity to sleep before the next day starts, I've experienced that on occasions in the past, okay? Then number four is agility. A customer calls you and says, can you come to my office tomorrow? There's nothing like, tomorrow is public holiday now in Nigeria. No, you simply get up and go. What time do you want me to be there? So then agility means you are ready to push speed on your feet and respond quickly to what the market is saying. That means changes that your customers are demanding, changes that the broad market is demanding. So the changes may not come from your own customer, but the market where they belong to. Changes demanded by your own industry, that is people that are doing the same business with you. So there's a difference between market and industry. Changes demanded by the environment you operate in, all right? And of course, changes demanded also by the economy. So agility means your ability to respond quickly and timelessly to those changes around you, and in fact, move on to become the person driving the change. You create the change for others to follow. And so you then become one of the first beneficiaries of the change when it plays out according to your projection. So let me leave it there, ladies and gentlemen, and then you will get the rest in my slides. And as Peter said earlier on, at PLA Live, we are open to also answer questions. If you send them by mail, you will get my contacts in the slides deck. I will respond to any other questions that you send. Thank you so very much for having me. God bless you more and more.
If the speaker can send a clap icon, or you can unmute and clap. Thank you so much, Dr. Biodo. This has been so deep and very insightful. You've just realigned perspectives and paradigms this evening. Thank you so much for your time, sir. We overshot by almost 20 minutes, and thank you for your patience. Thank you, everyone. We still have about 76 people still logged on the chat. We had 85 total peak, and we still have about 76 still logged on. Thank you so much, everyone. We will be circulating the materials. Ensure that you have dropped your contact, and if you missed the poll, just drop it on the chat so that the IT team can pick it up. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Do have a wonderful evening and a fantastic holiday. Tomorrow and next is public holiday in Nigeria. All right. Have a wonderful day. Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.